Steelers just keep on having winning seasons. Didn't make the playoffs, but came really close. So with Pickett there at quarterback, and I said it last year, I don't know how you felt about him because we weren't doing the shows, but I loved Kenny Pickett. I thought he should have been the first quarterback of the draft. I understood. I didn't say he should have been like top 10 pick, but after what I saw at Pitt at college, and when he got drafted by the Steelers, I was like, oh, that is perfect. I said,
Yeah,
you could just tell that was going to be perfect, and it worked out. And they've got their franchise quarterback.
Yeah, it's funny how some teams in the NFL, and it's always the teams that don't have a lot of turnover year to year in the front office and the coaching staff. It's funny how some things it just goes their way.
Yeah.
The ball bounces their way, and it's not luck. I've been tracking the Steelers draft for about 9 years now, and I love the way they operate. I know their team, it goes deeper than the draft in terms of why they're so successful year after year. The coaching staff, Tomlin, but they know how to approach the draft. They really do. Do they hit on everyone? No, nobody does, right? But they have a template, and they stick to it. And that's where my first need on this roster comes from. They now have their quarterback. And one thing this team has always done a good job of with Ben Roethlisberger is they made sure they kept on investing resources into keeping him upright. And I think the tackle spots are too soft on the out. They're way too soft on the outside.
Yep.
I'd be shocked if they don't use this first pick on one of the tackles.
Agreed. Yes, that is easily their most important need on offense.
Yeah,
without question. Sure, they can use a little bit more depth at running back and even wide receiver, but Austin comes back next year, so that should hopefully help out. But yeah, we're just kind of nitpicking with a little of this and a little of that. But yeah, that offensive tackle, because the Kendrick Green draft pick has been a bust. That's not working out for him.
Yep.
They could get by with Cole. They're okay at guard, but at left tackle, that's a big spot right now. And even right tackle. I mean, I think both tackle spots can be upgraded.
Absolutely. I think left tackle, it takes priority, but you could go into this offseason saying that both of these tackle spots need to be upgraded.
And then defense, they do need some more help on the line. It's Hayward, it's Leal, but they got 3 guys hitting free agency, so we have no idea how they're going to work that. So, and they could really use a premier nose tackle. They don't have that. So, and they could use another inside linebacker to pair because Spillane and Jack and Bush, these guys are just they're not difference makers right now, and they could use a shutdown corner really if you look at it. I mean, they have decent corners. Sutton's a nice nickel, but Fitzpatrick is really the only, and Edmonds, that's another guy, Edmonds, that they have to resign. But the cornerback position, that's a big need. They have to find somebody to be their number one.
Yeah, that entire defensive backfield, I mean, other than Fitzpatrick, that's something that's going to have to be addressed. My gut says they're going to go the free agency route, get a veteran in there. But, Sutton's a free agent. Terrell Edmonds is a free agent. Yeah. Even DeMonte KZ is a free agent. He flashed a little bit. He's been around the league for a few years.
Player, yes.
He fit that defense pretty well in the limited looks that I saw them. But on defense, like you said, I think the defense works there when the inside linebackers are doing their job. That's when they're at their peak, right? They have the talent up front. Like you said, they definitely need depth. The depth up there is hurting. But if they can get at least one body in there, at inside linebacker, that makes a big difference, it's going to help that defense a lot. The issue is I don't know if I see the right fit in the draft, definitely not in the first round. Trenton Simpson does not fit there. I think it's going to be slim pickings for the kind of inside linebacker that they need. So Miles Jack will be back. I think year 2, that system might help him out a little bit. I think Devin Bush is as good as gone. He'll play. Yeah,
they really thought they had something with Devin Bush when they got him. They thought he was going to be like.
They had something too.
Yeah,
I thought they did too. 2019. I mean, I don't know if you remember, they made an aggressive trade up in the draft for him, which is not common
for the Steelers,
inside linebacker position. And then you see it like, oh, what are the Steelers doing? Trust, they know what they're doing, right? 2019 started off on fire, and then the wheels fell off. I think he had a knee injury, right?
Yep,
and then it seems like he lost a lot of his explosion, and that's so much of what his game was based on. It wasn't instincts, it wasn't tackling, it wasn't defending the pass. It was how fast and how explosive he was, and he just never recovered. So I mean, that's why they brought in Miles Jack last year, was to kind of take over that role. And so that's a spot where definitely Steeler Nation has been pulling their hair out watching their linebackers play for a few years now. So if there is something in the draft that they feel fits their system, they're going to go after it.
And like TJ Watt is also a good example of how the Steelers are able to use the draft wisely, because not every great player gets drafted in the top 10 of the NFL draft.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those things where, like, when you're a bad team, it's like these players like Watt, like you could tell that he had some potential to be a good player, but you also knew that he wasn't a top 10 talent. And it's interesting how that happens. How you get these teams that, well, yeah, but we're in the top 10, so we have to draft guys that are top 10 caliber players. I'm not going to reach for a guy that should go in the 15s or the 20s or whatever. Yet those guys have every bit a chance to turn out to be impact star players as guys in the top 10.
Yeah.
Especially with all the quarterbacks that get taken early in the draft of the top 10 that more often than not are misses than hits. It's like you go, I think Steelers of all team, they get TJ Watt. Come on, man.
Right. I think that's why it's the beauty of the NFL draft. Obviously, everyone wants to be picking higher because you get to really pick who you want. Nothing gets taken out from underneath you. But every year, at every position, in every division, there are players that are picked way beyond the first round that make an enormous impact on this league. And part of it is scouting. Part of it's also player development, which is hard to do in the NFL now, just limited practices and this what have you done for me lately? Lack of patience approach, right? But that's why I'm so passionate about the draft is no matter what round you're in, even the undrafted free agency period, there's someone there that's going to be a Pro Bowl, maybe even an All-Pro. Every time you're picking, someone's there that can be that guy, and that's the beauty of it.
Do you think if he was in this draft, do you think TJ Watt would still be drafted late in the first round? Or do you think sometimes I look at these guys that were taken a little later and I say, they're so good, but it's so hard to kind of get that. But you saw the tape, you saw that this guy could be a wrecking sack machine, and yet why did he go so late?
I just want to get my numbers on him because I do, like we've talked about this before, where some teams put a little bit too much into the measurements and the speed. I want to make sure I have my numbers right on him, though. So this guy, he was 6'4", 250, average arm length, decent numbers working out. Let's see, he ran a 4.7. I mean, he didn't have any standout physical traits.
So he didn't blow everybody away at the workouts.
Right. Decent 3-cone for his size, and that's a big part of playing. It's hard to look back. I mean, hindsight's always 20/20, right? I mean, this kid was he's won Defensive Player of the Year, right? So it would be easy. I'd be taking the easy way out, saying, "Oh, he should be a top 5 pick in this draft class." But let's look at last year's draft class between Aiden Hutchinson, Kayvon Thibodeau, Trayvon Walker. If he was in that class, and I'm just going to be honest about this, if I had the college version of TJ Watt next to those three, he's number 4 behind them.
Sure.
Just based on his tape and his measurables and what you think his upside might be. Now, one thing that's hard to figure out when you're scouting is how much work are these guys going to be put in once they get to the league. I mean, TJ Watt, he's not much more talented than he was coming out of college, right? But he worked his butt off, and he does everything right, and he never stops. His brother was the same way, right? And that's a trait that's why when we scout from our perspective, you have to take it with a grain of salt, to be honest, because a lot of it comes down to the interviews and the background information and then just the man himself.